All right. Welcome in to this week's session. I'm super excited to have my man Spencer Evans with us today. Spencer is, I consider him a close friend. I don't know if he considers me a friend, but he's definitely
Yeah,
a friend.
no, I would.
Now, yeah, a couple years ago, I don't know if you remember this, Spencer, our paths crossed when that's how I met you. It was like a Christmas market, like a little thing where you were selling some stuff. And I noticed you had some bike part ornaments that you were selling and some skateboard stuff. And I was like, who's this guy? What is this? And so that's when I first met you. And as we started talking, we find out we're both therapists and kind of similar interests and hobbies. So that was a cool moment when we met a little while ago. And it's been cool
That was.
to get to know you, man.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I had no idea what I was doing at that market, but it was fun. It was a good time.
No, that's cool. Well, in the very least, it was cool to put yourself out there, and so that I can meet you. And honestly, that was a big moment for me because I was at a little bit of a crossroads in my career, and some of the things that you had told me in that moment really stuck with me and sparked an interest for me and kind of helped my transition. So, yeah, man, I appreciate that. And but no, it's
Awesome.
been really cool to have your mentorship and professional colleagues as well and friendships. So, anyways, just wanted
Yeah,
to
you.
introduce a little bit, but no, if you wanted to just take a couple minutes, just explain, yeah, who you are, where you're from, yeah, a little bit about what you do, and yeah, just all those good things. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, yeah. So my name's Spencer. Live in Utah. I've lived in Utah pretty much my whole life. Um, I love it here. It's got everything. My wife and I are very outdoors centered, so it just kind of has everything we want, as well as we like raising our kids here. Uh, I'm like you said, I'm a therapist by trade, and I've been doing that. I don't know, 8ish years or so. Uh, I've kind of been in the helping profession ever since high school. Just always liked it. I've always been curious about people and working with people. It just kind of makes sense to me. And yeah, I'm a dad of three cool kids and have a super cool wife. And overall, life's pretty sweet. It's not without challenges, but I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, we'll get into the biking stuff here in a minute,
Yeah.
but I'm always really interested to talk to fellow therapists and see what it was about that profession, yeah, that drew you to the helping profession to being a therapist.
Yeah.
What was your drive? What was your motivation for that?
A couple things. One in junior high, I was like the worst high school or junior high and high school student. Never did homework and that kind of thing. And for some reason, they assigned us to read To Kill a Mockingbird, and I read it. I have no idea what actually got me to read it, but when I was reading it and I was talking about empathy and walking around in another person's shoes, like that just stuck out with me, and it was like a pretty pivotal moment in my life that I'd always been a people person up till that point, been curious about others. And my mom said even when I was a baby, I was always curious about other people. But in that moment, I was like, okay, I think I want to do stuff with people, like help people's lives, even if it's just a little bit better. So that, and then where I started putting more effort into it, um, like I've talked to you a little bit about it. I'm in recovery, and I went to the last time I went to rehab was in 2009. Um, and I remember just sitting in group therapy and seeing the productive stuff with that and how it really helped me. And that's when I kind of finalized that I wanted to be a therapist. I was just like, okay, if I can get my life, in somewhat working order, then that was that was my main motivator. I saw therapy in like a cool way. Before it was more of like probation officer style, to where it's like don't say anything because if I say stuff, I'm gonna get stuck longer than in treatment
Hmm.
or that kind of thing. But yeah, when I saw like solid therapy, I was like, oh, this is actually helpful.
It's awesome. Yeah, and so I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird kind of planted that seed, going
Yeah.
through your own experience, and then just kind of working through that. And yeah, you've been a therapist for 8 years. I mean, again, you own your own practice, right?
Yeah.
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 So what was? Yeah, go ahead.
I worked in residential treatment. I actually worked where I went to treatment. I did that for about 5 years, and that was enough time for me. And then stuff just lined up. I never thought I would be a private practice therapist, but it just the timing was right and it all made sense. And I love doing it. I don't know if I can ever go back to having a boss after this. So we'll see
I
how.
hear you.
Hopefully, I can just ride this out till I'm like 65.
That's the plan here too. No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
great. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and we'll kind of discuss the recovery piece as well in a minute. But
Mhm.
the biking thing, and that's kind of how I first met you. You were doing a lot of stuff with different bike parts and stuff. And as we started
Yeah,
talking, I was like, oh, yeah, Spencer's into riding and stuff. But has bike riding always been a part of your life as a kid, or how did you get into it?
yeah. So I'm the youngest of all my siblings. So I grew up just you know with hand me down bikes, and my parents were always kind of pushing us into like getting outdoors, and so I started on. My parents still have it. There's a tricycle in their garage, but I started out on that, and then it got to just like yeah, rolling around the neighborhoods and that kind of thing, and like the freedom. So from an early age, probably like 4 or 5, I was on bikes, and there's been since then I've had like periods where I wasn't on bikes as much, but um, so yeah, in my childhood it was all about hanging out with friends, jumping curbs. I had a buddy that he had a big side yard, and we would make ramps and jump them, that kind of thing. Just a straight flat landing. I couldn't do that today, but when you're 12, you can kind of take that. Um, and then there was, let's see, I was in at the end of 8th grade, and that's where I was starting to kind of like get into some trouble. And in my neighborhood, we had like our scouts, and they said we were going on a camp out. I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to, and they were going to a place I'd never heard of, and I got like muscled into going. Um, and I was so mad. And we ended up going to Moab. I never even knew what Moab was, and we ended up going during Jeep Safari. So there's 13-year-old me, kind of a punk kid. Just ultimately, I was just like uncomfortable in my skin and that kind of thing, but didn't know how to express myself. And we go down and we ride Slick Rock, the trail down there, and took no water, no helmets, and I'm on a bike that was my sister's bike from like early 1990s, and no suspension, nothing. And we did Slick Rock, and we thought it was like 2 miles. It ended up being like 9 miles, and by the end of it, like I'd never been that tired, and I was just during it. I'm like, man, this sucks. The rocks look cool. This sucks. It's kind of fun with my friends, and I remember just sitting in the parking lot at Slick Rock after, and there was just something about it where I'm like, that was awesome. And it was so weird to me. I'm like, it was hard. There were parts that sucked. Never been that thirsty in my life, and I was just like, whoa, there's something to this. I also learned who Bob Marley was that trip, because there was someone in a Jeep listening to Bob Marley, and I was like, who is this? And they're like, Bob Marley, and that was just kind of like one of those moments where I'm like, oh, life's kind of cool. And I had depression and stuff around that, and so that was pretty eye opening. And came home, told my parents about it, and within a month, my dad bought a bike. He got me a bike, and we went back down to Moab and did it again. And that's when I got into mountain biking, and it became more, than just riding around the neighborhood, jumping off curbs, but it became kind of an outlet for me. Um, yeah, so like 8th and 9th grade is when I really got into it.
It's awesome. Yeah, and I know we've talked about Moab a whole lot. Moab's definitely a special place for sure. I love you even wearing a Moab shirt right now. I can see that.
Am I? Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, this is my work attire.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, yeah, you pick up, that eighth, ninth grade, really get into the mountain biking thing.
Yeah,
I'm curious. Like, I noticed on I think it was your work Instagram that you had posted, and you posted yourself riding your bike right now, and you had said this bike has helped me stay sober, stay clean, or however you put it. But yeah,
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about that. I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got into drugs in high school, and started using pretty extensively. And then for a couple years after that, and I was a garden variety. I would try kind of whatever would come my way. But the two that really broke me were heroin and alcohol. And those were the ones that just destroyed me as a
Mm.
person. And at that time I wasn't doing anything with my life other than like I would get out snowboarding and that kind of thing, but I was, you know, a little too drunk to ride a bike, and so didn't do much biking at that point. Um, and I went to treatment, and this was like my first like legit like pretty intrusive treatment. I'd been to a couple of like outpatients before then, and I got kicked out for using and failing tests. And but anyways, I was in treatment for like 2 months, and then I got into sober living in downtown Salt Lake, and I can't remember if my license was suspended at that point. My license was suspended a good amount just from, getting drug charges. But I had to go to work, and the only way I could get to work was riding a bike. And so that bike was actually the one my dad bought for himself. It was an old Schwinn Moab. Uh, I remember when he bought it. We rode home, and I was always jealous of that bike. And um, so yeah, just from that day on, I started riding everywhere. And 26-inch wheels. When I rode it that day and I put it on Instagram, I was like, dude, how did I used to, there were times when I'd do like 50-mile rides on that bike.
Wow.
And yeah, and now I'm like, biking 2 miles to work. And I'm like, this thing is slow. But, but it was a source of freedom for me. Uh, and I just started loving, that's when I fell in love with bikes again. I was 24 at that time. Um, and yeah, it was an instrument to get me where I needed to go, but it was also, I didn't have therapy, didn't have money for that kind of thing, so it was kind of like where I would go to like sort out my thoughts, and that kind of thing was on rides. Uh, Fun fact: I also like quit smoking at that time, and so I'd be biking and I would just be coughing up all sorts of nasty stuff, but like it just helped me like just in so many different ways. The bike was like cleaning out my insides, like physically and spiritually and emotionally. Um, and I loved it.
That's awesome, man. So how long did you have that bike for? How long was that process as you were biking to
That
different
was
places with
that
it?
was 2 straight years throughout the winter. Everything I was working, and so I rode that everywhere. I probably went through like 5 or 6 sets of tires because it was a mountain bike, and so I'd get mountain bike tires on it. But pretty much only rode on the road with it because just to get everywhere I needed to go.
You still have it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'll never get rid of that bike.
Just the sentimental value of it, or what?
Yeah, yeah. That and I'm sentimental. I have that bike. That was a blue bike, the Schwinn, and then I have my dad bought me a yellow Raleigh, so I have that as well. Both of those bike frames.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen your bike collection, Spencer. You got extensive bikes for sure.
yeah. I need to thank my wife for that one, but
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, you're riding this bike every day. It just really helps clear out your system physically,
yeah,
mentally, spiritually, all these things. At what I mean, were you still going to treatment? I mean, you're saying you couldn't really afford treatment at that point. Yeah, what was that process like? I mean, as far as just mentally and yeah, just
yeah,
continuing on with that.
yeah. I was so once treatment was over, I didn't go to a therapist or anything. I have no idea how I stayed sober. Like statistically, I shouldn't have, but yeah, I mean, biking wasn't the only thing. Loved ones were helping me. Uh, Close calls with death before when I was drinking, and that kind of helped me. So there was that fear. Um, my main source of like staying sober was going to AA meetings and that kind
Hmm.
of thing. And
Yeah.
I biked to all those, and I started. At first, it was like biking to meetings that were like a mile or two away, and then I started being like, oh, there's one downtown, and that's 15 miles there, 15 miles back. Like that sounds fun. When I first started, I remember I worked like 4 miles away, and I was like, dude, I just barely gave up smoking. I was still like, I was in terrible shape. I was like, I don't even know if I'm capable of doing that. Um, but yeah, so I just started at that and slowly worked my way up. I think the longest ride I did on that bike was like 60 miles. And that was just, yeah, all along the Salt Lake Valley.
It's awesome. Well, kind of going back to your story, Slick Rock, right? Like, I mean, in the
Hmm.
midst of it, the the discomfort and like the pain that you were going through, but then looking back and being like, wow, man, I did it. And I wonder if some of that kind of came up too as you were starting to, venture out a little bit further and further with this bike.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think naturally, and I think this led to a lot of my addiction stuff. Naturally, I like to avoid conflict and I like to be comfortable. But when I'm on a bike, staying on like like the easy stuff gets boring for me. And so I look
Mm.
for the challenge, and like I'm regularly questioning why I started this ride or that kind of thing. And but I'm loving it at the same time. And so it was one of the main things that kind of strengthened like my grit and my determination was with the bike. And so yeah, I didn't made that connection with at Slick Rock when I was younger and that kind of thing. But yeah, that was bikes were the only things that like really helped me push through discomfort. And even today, I'm like, it's not the most fulfilling ride if I'm not like, when I get home, I'm just kind of beat. It's cathartic for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And there's definitely a therapeutic release when we put ourselves through extreme discomfort, right?
Oh yeah.
Almost like yeah, that catharticism that, uh, yeah, just again, that release that's
Hmm.
healthy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you're biking. So, uh, kind of back to the story. I mean, you're going through it and everything. At what point? Yeah, I mean, you're biking all these AA meetings and stuff. I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, when did you meet your wife and like how did that all kind of play out?
Yeah. So I met her. I was about 3 years clean, and at that point, I had a car. Uh, it's an old Honda Accord. Her name was Shannon, the coolest car ever.
Did you
Um,
name it Shannon? How did
I
Shannon get its name?
Yeah, I named it Shannon. Yeah. Well, I didn't name it. Its name was Shannon. And I don't know. I just got in it for the first time. I'm like, your name's Shannon. Uh, I named my bikes too. Um, but yeah, and so I just met her. I saw her one day, and um, so I was 3 years clean. It took me probably 18 months to where I like actually started to feel like myself again.
Yeah.
Um, the the amounts I was using of alcohol and opiates was pretty high, and it really took a toll on me. And so yeah, I just forgot how to be a person. And so luckily I didn't meet my wife before then, or she was just been like, who is this dude? I'm gonna stay away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in a pretty good spot. I was pretty healthy. I'd started going down a spiritual path again, or not again, for the first time. And I met her about a year into that. And it's kind of old school. I just saw her one day and she just stood out. And that hadn't happened to me really. And so I was like, hey, there's something about this person, and went up and asked her out. And it was, yeah, like 10 seconds of courage. Luckily I was able to do it. So, but yeah, and we've been hanging out ever since.
Three
Like
kids
that was
later.
like 2011. Yeah.
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 You guys met in 2011?
I think it was. Yeah. Or no, 2012.
Yeah. Nice. So how long you been married now?
Shoot. 12 years this in August. We'll be at 12 years.
Cool. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, definitely helps that, she's like you were saying earlier into the adventuring type of stuff. Is she into biking as well, or how does that kind of coincide?
Yeah. Yeah. She does. It's not her top thing. Like for me, biking's definitely my obsession. She's into canyoneering, but it's cool. We both have our outdoor stuff, so she understands my obsession around it and doesn't give me too hard of a time, and is cool with like providing time for me to go out and go riding. She'll go, but it's like probably her, like her third or fourth favorite. Where for me, like biking's like my top four favorite. Is just different styles of riding. So, but yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of styles of riding, yeah, what are the styles that you're into? What do you do?
yeah. So I mean, I still like to commute. I don't commute as much as you. How many days are you on? Like in a row of 10 miles?
163 as of this
Jeez,
recording.
crazy. Okay. Yeah, so I don't do it that consistently. But I do like to ride to work. My so I have a road bike that I like to go on. Um, I also really like mountain biking. That's probably my favorite. Um, I just like everything that goes along with it. I also love fat biking, and winter fat biking's kind of becoming my favorite the last couple
Mm.
years. I don't know what it is about it, but I just love riding in the snow, and there's something about it. I'm not quite sure what it is. Um, and then yeah, I like to just like tinker around with bikes. I just got a neighbor was getting rid of a beach cruiser, and I've been converting it into like a lowrider, which has been super fun.
Yeah, I've seen your pictures. I gotta come over and check this check this bike out, man.
Yeah, it's sweet. So I'm yeah, I'm not a good mechanic at all, but I like to just tinker with them.
Yeah, and I mean, you're getting your kids into riding as well. How's that
Yeah,
journey been as a dad teaching your kids how to ride?
it's cool. Yeah, all of my kids ride bikes. We have a cul-de-sac and they ride around it, and it's awesome. My oldest, he's 9. His name's Lewis. He's on a. It's more of a club. It's not necessarily. I want to call it a team, but he goes mountain biking twice a week. Um, and my wife usually takes him to do that. I'm usually at work during those times, but him and I will go on the weekends, and it's cool to see his. Well, all my kids, but like it's cool to watch their sense of freedom on it. Um, it was like a couple weeks ago, but my youngest Ren is 3, and she was mad at you know we were telling her to do something she didn't want to, and she went outside and started walking around, and then she just got on her bike and like was just she probably did like 30 circles in the cul-de-sac, getting mad as a 3-year-old would, and then she came back in and was kind of centered after she did that, and so she's been doing that more when she gets frustrated. Like it's just cool to see her turn to a bike. So that's been cool. And my middle child Sage, she likes to ride as well, and I think they're seeing the. I don't know. I don't want to be like too mystical with it, but like they're seeing like the magic or the I don't know the transformation just riding a bike can have on a person.
Yeah, I mean, you feel it, right? And I think that that's such a strong connection as with us as adults when we jump on a bike and we ride. We're kind of transformed to that childlike state and
Yeah,
of just that freedom and exploration and just opening
yeah.
up our world to us. It's awesome.
And I think that's part of why I love fat biking so much is because like it just feels like I'm like 8 years old again on a bike.
Mm,
Like it just brings that feeling back where it's not about getting up the gnarliest mountain or that kind of thing. Like whenever I'm on a fat bike, it's just like just straight play.
yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah,
Uh, an experience that I had, I wanted to share with you just
yeah,
because you'd appreciate this. My middle son, he's getting into biking a ton more, and we were
awesome.
biking around the park just the other day, and there was some puddles, and he dips his tires in the puddles, right, and he starts riding all around, and he
Uh
looks
huh.
down, and he looks up at me, and he says, "Dad, I'm making art," and
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
just like. Just the lines out in the parkway, and I know that that's something that you've talked a lot about within the profession, right? Having the artistic side of things, and
yeah,
I love how biking kind of taps into that in some way. Just
for
we
sure.
feel like that artistic, just energy, that kind of that
Mhm.
creative energy that comes out. So,
Yeah,
um, But yeah, I wanted to kind of ask you that as well. Like as you as being a therapist and when you commute, when you bike, do you notice a difference the days that you bike to work, or how has that helped you? Or, yeah, what's been your motivation with
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, I'd say like there's been days where like I haven't wanted to bike to work and I've just been like stressed or like just kind of down, and my wife's encouraged me, and so I just you know ride to work, and I text her. I'm like, hey, thanks for pushing me to ride the bike because it clears my head, and um, there's always some aspect of play, no matter what form of biking I'm doing. So like that will clear my head. And then also on the way home, it's often, you know, being a therapist, you talk about a lot of stuff with a lot of people, and that, you know, 10-15 minute ride home clears my head and just kind of, or I don't even know if it clears my head, but it just like takes a lot of the weight that I'm helping other people hold in session, and it just kind of disperses that. And it, I mean, not that sometimes stuff still stick with me and that kind of thing, but it's just really good at releasing a lot of that energy that I spent all day with people, helping them get rid of it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. That's the big realization that I had when I started commuting
Hmm.
to and from when I was working at residential places as well. Just how much clear I would be, exhausted physically, right? But just how much clearer my mind would be,
Yeah,
and just emotionally, just being like, oh man, that ride really helped me kind of release that energy.
yeah, yeah. No, and I started seeing that when I was first sober. My commute was like, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15 miles each way, and I just started seeing that how much it would like kind of clear my head and help me sort through different things. I don't know if it's bilateral stimulation or what. Like I've looked at some of the science behind it, but ultimately, I just settle on like I feel better when I do it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a firm believer that there is definitely that bilateral stimulation, that back and forth kind of processing that helps us
Yeah,
kind of work through that as we're kind of dealing with those thoughts. And then it just, I don't know, in a physical sense, we just kind of ride past it, right? We got to keep moving forward
yeah, yeah,
in order to keep going, and it just kind of helps put that at ease. Like I remember, again, thinking back years ago, having a difficult time or difficult session or whatever with dealing with some pretty hardcore teenagers, and
yeah.
just feeling so stressed out as I was leaving work. But then 10 minutes in, just, yeah, like it wasn't even an issue anymore. So,
Do you ever notice in those moments like your cadence shifting, like as you
hmm
go right? Like I've had that where sometimes I'm like just so pent up where I'm like hauling, and then like 3 miles in, all of a sudden I'm like more in a flow, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like working with the bike rather than like manhandling it and stuff like
yeah.
that. Do you notice that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I've never really thought about that, but yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm with you. I commute, I ride road, I do all sorts of different things, cruise around, but mountain bike is definitely probably one of my favorites. And I feel like that with mountain biking, especially around here, like our trails, there's such a steep incline to get up to them, right? And there's
Yeah,
like this grind to get into it. But then once you are there, you find yourself in that flow and just that easy rhythm.
yeah,
So it's just, I think there's a lot of symbolism to that, just kind
yeah,
of grinding, working through some of those difficult things. And then when you get to that moment, just that almost, I'm gonna sound, crazy here, but like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like that self actualization, you
yeah,
hit that point and you look out over the view and you're just like, okay, like this, I feel great, like
yeah,
I went
yeah,
through this and here I am.
yeah. It provides that like clarity,
Yep.
and that's another like. So I went to treatment in 2009, and so this October I'll be at 16 years. That doesn't mean like I remember thinking when I was like in early recovery, I'm like, oh, once I get sober, like everything's gonna just be so much easier. And a lot of things are, I'm not like, you know, just fighting to stay alive and that kind of thing like I used to. But life isn't without obstacles sober. And there's been, my life hasn't been perfect either. I've had some close calls with, relapse or, other behaviors or that kind of thing. And biking's been huge through that. Um, There was like a 2 year period where I didn't have a bike. Like I was in grad school, we were just so broke, and yeah, couldn't ride a bike. And I remember getting a bike again, and just realizing uh, how much of an important part of my life that bikes are. And as I look back at it, and just as we were talking about doing this podcast, like I realized like that has been kind of like one of my top go tos of kind of being able to navigate life. Like again, like I'm sober, but I still have depression, I have anxiety, and biking's the I mean, I have my spirituality and I have relationships and that kind of thing, but like activity wise or like things that I consistently do, bikes have been um, one of my best tools of navigating all that. And now that I'm a therapist, I know all sorts of ways to work through depression, anxiety, and that. But I still like bikes can do stuff like therapy can't, and just like nature can do stuff talk therapy can. And so it's yeah, it's been really cool. I think that's what leads to a lot of my obsession with them.
Yeah. And vice versa as well, right? Like I'll say that to a lot of people. You know, sitting down with somebody for an hour or two, like having a really good talk therapy session, like you start to uncover things
Hmm.
that you had no idea, and it's such a beautiful process. And
Yeah,
so a big thing that I'll tell people is go to therapy for best results, ride your bike to the appointment,
yeah,
kind
yeah, yeah.
of
I can get down with that.
open up your mind a little bit as you get there, and then help you kind of process as you leave. But no, as you were kind of talking about that, I'm reminded there's this book that I'm reading right now. I love it. It's called How Cycling Can Save the World.
Oh, cool.
And within the first part of it, he talks about all these different positive benefits, healthy benefits that we experience in our body as we move, as we exercise, as we get out in nature, and how biking can help us access those things. And one of the things that stood out to me the most is he said, if there was a pill that could encapsulate all the positive all the positive benefits that being outside in nature, exercising in nature
Hmm.
could have, if you could just take a pill and experience that, the person that invented that would have won the Nobel Prize, and people would be lining up down the block to
Oh,
access
sure.
that pill,
Yeah,
right? But we don't think of it that way because we think, it's we have to move, it's exercise, we got to get out. That's just so much harder, and we automatically start building up, some of those walls or some of those
yeah,
resistance
yeah.
to doing some of those things. Where it's like, I prompt, like, if you just try, if you just go for something, you don't have to do a 50 miler or something, but just riding around the cul-de-sac 30 times, like you will experience just some of that pure, like, release, pure joy. Like
Hmm.
your endorphins will start to kick in within your mental capacity, and then that energy will then be there, and that motivation to then accomplish all these other things in life too. So anyways, yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of a thought that I had as you were talking about that.
yeah. No, and that yeah, my kids definitely kind of re-taught me that because I think I was attached to that when I was a kid. It was like, no, you just get on your bike and have fun.
Yeah,
And in my later 20s, early 30s, like I was really attached to the like, okay, I want to go on the biggest ride I can do and see how far I can push it. And with having kids, it got me back into the, riding a mile kind of thing. They're not going to go do some gnarly stuff. And at first I was like, oh, this is kind of boring. But then I was like, oh, wait, hold on. Let's see how far I can coast. Like, this is cool. Or how long can I do a track stand? And just dinking around on it. I was like, yeah, my kids retaught me that fun side of it that I lost
yeah,
sight of for about a decade.
for sure.
Even though
Yeah,
it's
and just
fun, it's just a different kind of fun.
hmm yeah, and there's a place for some of those hard rides and those long things for sure, because it teaches you, again, like the discipline and the
Yeah,
endurance and everything. But yeah, and there's just something about it's just so pure of just going for a little mile, 2 mile ride, and just just enjoying the view, enjoying the
for
scenery.
sure. For sure.
Yeah, sweet, man. Well, as far as I always like to ask people, if someone's getting back into bike riding, or looking to start back into it, or it's been a long time, or they're getting into it for the first time, what advice would you give to somebody, or what tips? Yeah, what
Mhm.
would you have for them?
Um, well, one, like for me, it's just find the fun in it. Um, I think at times it can be intimidating for people. Like if you're like, oh, I want to get into mountain biking, and you go to a ski resort where they have mountain biking, or you go pull up to one of the mountain biking spots, and you just see everyone with bikes, and it looks like they know where they're going, and I don't know, it just seems like that can be a barrier for people, and I do think there is some of that, you know, competition, and even though there isn't a competition, but just I don't know, people being people. But I would say like blow past all of that if you can, and just go to have fun. Be okay with being a beginner, and go for the fun. That would be my main thing. Um, Trying to think if there's anything else of my advice. I'd say an old clunker bike is just as fun as a $15,000 bike. So I wouldn't splurge too much at first. Like I'm all for like getting nice fancy bikes and that kind of thing, but to get the majority of like the cool stuff, the cool feelings in that, like you don't need something super fancy. And so I watched some people like starting and get back into them like, whoa, this bike's super nice, but I don't know if it's necessary kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. You can. I love that. Just accessing that fun, and it can be on a pretty cheap bike that you can find, used
Yeah,
or whatever. Right, just something to get you around and get you back into it. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's I don't know weather too. I like riding in funky weather. I love like commuting in January when it's like 18 degrees out, and like when you breathe in, you can like feel the nose hair in there and stuff like that. Or when it's raining or when it's super hot, like don't just wait for the perfect day to do it. And similar to like your son, like there's puddles, like go ride through a puddle. Like good luck not feeling like a kid riding a bike through a puddle.
Yeah, and yeah, the weather element too. I think it teaches like a sense of zen, of like you have to be
Yeah,
okay with the elements around you that you can't control, right? You got to kind of, I talk about this a lot with people, kind of forecasting is like, hey, if it's going to rain, you put on a coat, right? Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
kind of recognize there's going to be trials, there's going to be difficult things you go through, and you can kind of prep for them, but you can't avoid them, right? And
yeah,
so yeah, this idea of riding through the cold and everything else, yeah, I'm with you. There's something just inherently satisfying about going through that for sure.
yeah, yeah. I remember there was this one day I was when I was at my old work in Utah. We get these like it doesn't rain a ton, but sometimes we get it where like for 15 minutes it's just like crazy rain and it's dumping. And I remember I was like getting on my bike and my coworkers are like, let us give you a ride. I'm like, no, this is the stuff like that I get excited for. And it
Uh-huh.
was the kind of rain that I was outside for like 2 seconds and I was already completely wet.
Hmm.
Super windy. And I just remember like pulling up to a four corner or a what do you call it?
Intersection.
Yeah, a four-way intersection. And there was another dude on a bike. And we both just kind of look at each other and we're like, hell yeah, man. This is, you should have like instant camaraderie because it's like we're the only two people out here on bikes and it's crazy weather. And, I was having the time of my life and I'm guessing he was too.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Something about it. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Well, Spencer, you're the man. Appreciate you being willing to share a little bit of your story and your experiences. But if people want to find you as a therapist or reach out to you in any way,
Hmm.
where's the best place to find you?
Yeah. So I run a practice that I call congruence therapy. Uh, my wife is way more tech savvy, and so she's created like an Instagram page and we have a website and all of that. So congruencetherapy.com, or I think they call them a handle or whatever your name is on Instagram. That's congruence therapy as well. And so we had stuff on there and try to give kind of like you were doing on this, like giving free tips, free therapeutic tips um, to help people. Like
Yeah.
I like just giving away knowledge that I have. It's like, man, I wish someone told me this 20 years ago. So I think it can be a bright side of social media of just like, hey, here's some tips.
Absolutely. No, and you do a great job with that. And are you going to be? I mean, I know you did that little training CEU course for other therapists. I went to that. I learned a ton. Any more of that in the future coming out as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like teaching and training, and I specialize in like experiential therapy. Uh, it just kind of makes sense to me. And so yeah, the trying to give back on that as well. Um, so I'll let you know when the next one is. I don't have like a solid date for it yet, but
Yeah.
in the fall, early fall.
Yeah. No, some of those techniques and stuff that you taught us, I've been using some of them. It's been
Awesome.
super helpful for sure with some of my
Awesome.
clients. So yeah, it's awesome stuff. And yeah, I didn't even touch on that. You're a professor teaching at UVU, Utah Valley University.
Yeah, Professor Evans.
Big time, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's everyone just calls me Spencer, but yeah, I started last year teaching in their Masters of Social Work program, and super fun. I am not professional at all, um, but it's cool. Yeah, just going in and I teach the substance abuse class, so it's fun understanding it from I've worked in residential treatment, I've gone to residential treatment, and it's cool to be able to kind of offer that, and I'm pretty open there. Like the first class, I'll tell people I'm in recovery and like ask me anything, and so I don't shy away from stuff from my past. I think a way of turning it productive is to talk about it in a healthy way. I think there's healthy ways to do that and unhealthy ways, and um, so I try to use that as a productive thing. And but yeah, the class has been super cool.
No, and again, that speaks to your value of giving back, right? Training up the next generation of
Hmm.
helpers and therapists, and yeah, you do a great job at it, man. So keep it
Thanks.
up.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that comes from like my parents are very much like that. They're teaching and very charitable, and so from a baby that was modeled to me. So
Yeah,
I come from a long line of teachers and charitable people, so trying to keep up.
heck yeah. Well, keep at it, man. I'm excited to do some more riding with you in the future for sure. Some
Yeah,
more bike riding as well as snowboarding. Love getting
yeah,
out with you, but no, man. Again, Spencer, I greatly appreciate you coming on
yeah,
and sharing this. I know that something that you said, some of these experiences and stuff will definitely connect with somebody and help them out. So appreciate
yeah.
it.
And for your listeners, I've ridden with Zach, and he shreds. He down. We went down the to Sundance, and you're ripping. So you're not just talking about bikes, like you know what you're doing on those things. So just to validate that for your listeners, Zach shreds.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm definitely turning it down a little. My old age, you know.
I had a hard time keeping up with you, man. You're not turning it down.
No, it's fun. It's a fun mindfulness exercise for sure.
That's a
Absolutely.
good way. That's a good way of putting it. That's a therapist answer.
That's right. That is very right. Yep. All right,
All
Spencer. We'll talk again, man. Thank you.
right, man. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep.